Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast sponsored by Applied Software. You're invited to join our MEP and construction innovation adventure with a mission to propel this great industry forward. My guest today is Travis Althouse, MEP Implementation Manager at Rivisto. He's a tech-savvy construction professional with a proactive, tenacious, creative approach to problem solving. Welcome to the show, Travis.
Thanks, Todd. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So would love to start by the story on how you got into the construction industry.
So long story short, my family has a history, and I have two brothers that are about 10 years older than me. They've always kind of pushed towards construction. My dad's been a HVAC technician, like pretty much his whole life. So kind of just jumped in behind them. I went to school for engineering, realized I didn't necessarily like math, which is a big deal with engineering.
That would rule out some engineering.
Yeah, like I'm good at math, I enjoy it, but like doing like the limits of like imaginary numbers and stuff, some of you engineers might know what that means, but that's what threw me, and I just
Yeah,
dropped it and went with construction management.
nice.
So then the rest is history.
Yeah, very nice. What do you think have been some of the biggest changes in the industry over the past year or two, process and technology wise?
Well, this year for sure, what I have seen is a major change in mentality.
Uh,
Obviously, all this stuff kind of happened real quick, and we've all been working for a while on this digital kind of transformation, the doing digital twins and being able to work remotely.
mhm.
I've had several positions where I could work remotely, but nobody ever did. Well, now
Mhm.
all of a sudden we had to. It was just like all of a sudden we absolutely have to, and we got to keep productivity up. So that's the big thing I've seen is a lot of those higher up managers and stuff really embracing that remote workflow and really allowing people to do what they do and relying on them to do what they do.
Mhm.
Relying on the tradesmen to give the proper input for a job that's going to be prefab, that type of stuff. So
Yeah. Do you think it's that mentality is here to stay, or is it gonna kind of shift back whenever we open fully back up and things, whatever the new normal is, or are we already in the new normal? We've already made the the jump over.
right. Well, the tech savvy, tenacious part of me says, not if I can help it.
Nice.
you know, and that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy the team I work with, is because we've obviously been one to fill that void. At Rivisto, we've been able to really kind of allow them to keep doing what they do,
Mm,
and then they just use us to communicate, and then they just have to adapt a little bit instead of completely reinventing the wheel. We're just kind of resetting and repolishing what we do, and just embracing those guys on the iPads. I
yeah.
like seeing guys out on site on iPads.
Yeah. Nice. It's always an exciting sight to behold.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm like a little kid just like, "Yes, I like you."
Nice. uh, do you think all this disruption that has been going on and the digital transformation, has that given more of a voice to MEP?
Oh, without question. I think it's driven it's shown everybody the need to have MEPs involved more, instead of
Yeah.
before it's kind of just the engineer gives the design to like the GC, and then the MEPs just get like the leftover trash a little bit, and it's like, here, you got a couple months to build this, good luck.
Right.
And now it's kind of, because all of that's disjointed, we have to be more effective on construction sites. We have to be more
Mhm.
efficient with our time, with our material flow. We got to stay out of each other's way, 6 feet, So it's been really interesting to see that they're relying on the tradesmen and everything to say, how do you want this built? I'm designing it and I don't know what I'm doing. You know what you're doing and you're going to be installing it. So you teach me, and
Yeah.
that's the big shift I've seen, is that now it seems like trades in the field understand that a lot more and understand the constraints of BIM. And the BIM people are a lot more open because they can't just walk around the office and ask people questions. Now they have to actually go directly to those trades. And I think it's really enabled people like myself. A few years ago, that was me. I'm like, I came from an engineering firm. I thought I knew everything. And then I got into prefab and I'm like, man, I don't know anything. I don't know what any of this is. Luckily, I could go down to the shop and ask somebody, or something like that. But it took a while to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think this has really pushed people like myself to get out of our comfort zone or fail. You got to go ask them where you're going to fail. That's pretty much as simple as it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So,
I think one of the interesting kind of twists on that is that it seems that the MEP guys have been the ones, as you said, they've been getting the leftovers, yet they're the ones that have been more on the innovative mindset and growth mindset, kind of figure out the new and cool way to do it. And how do we really embrace technology? So it seems like they're kind of in the driver's seat now. Like, welcome to the club, everybody.
You're right. What I think is funny about that is that it's pretty clear that like MEPs in general have had a good grasp on it.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a really good grasp on everything. They've put the most time in their databases and making their parts right, making everything work with their Tiger stop machines and all this stuff, and it's just always been, they've used it for that and not necessarily for BIM stuff or like not external coordination with other trades. It's always just kind of been in-house, making sure these parts are right and our spools come out right. Whereas now, again, it's getting very clear that, hey, if we work with these other people, we can do multi-trade racks and then charge them per hanger, or say, hey, electrical guy, you can hang off this whole hallway of hangers, and just give us 10 grand or something, whatever the dollar amount is. I think that collaborative mindset is really starting to take off here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit more context. There's so many options now that it's so easy to get totally lost and just overwhelmed. Yep. How do you avoid that and therefore just kind of stay in the status quo?
Well, the big thing that I always start with is discovery. I mean, like no matter what, if it's me trying to help somebody else implement something, obviously if I'm trying to implement Rivisto, which is kind of a in-between kind of platform that everything plays nice with, I have to know who's using it and why. I could go show you how I use some tool, but you might be like, that's worthless to me. Like a big thing I find all the time is, I go down this rabbit hole of prefabrication and talking about that. 20 minutes later, it's like, well, what's prefabrication?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to know who's using what and why, and what their capabilities are. So the biggest thing I always recommend is as much discovery as possible. And not only like doing the discovery up front, but do the discovery, do a soft implementation with maybe one project or like a capable foreman and BIM guy or something, and then do another discovery. Go back and ask them, what did you like? What did you hate? And then implement again and fix what you did wrong before. And at that point, maybe bring another project team in, maybe get a little more advanced with your workflows, maybe test some stuff out. But it's just this constant process of discovery, implementation, discovery, implementation. That's a big part of what I do. I'd like to I schedule my own like touch points with clients and stuff. I always want to make sure I'm on top of how they make money. And then I want to show them how they can make more money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
I'd say that's the big key.
Interesting. So, there's a bunch of tools out there, whether it's what you guys are doing with Rivisto of bringing the data and the drawings together, providing that more kind of instant communication, or, whether like our Evolve MEP team, bringing the designer, helping them actually design and coordinate at the same time. How do people find out about these options and then assess kind of what works best for them?
Well, in my experience, so I worked under John Marsh previously. In my experience, I just trusted that man with my life, He would be the one. I mean, I know as I've gotten out there and seen more, it was that he was going to MCAA and MEP Force is amazing. I take so much from MEP Force, but those trade shows, it's not about going booth to booth and just getting cards and like going and checking it out on your own. Go have dinner with those people, chat with them, figure out like what their plan is, what their passion is, that type of stuff. And that's where you start. And then again, the best way to figure out, how you're going to apply it or what you're going to apply is to go back and figure out what your problems are. Now you know that you have all these things like Evolve. I love Evolve. It's a major problem that like I would be laying out. I literally would lay out an entire job and I would spool the whole thing and I would send it out to the job site. I've never welded in my life. I didn't know really what a spool was. I didn't know what street elbows were. And I'm laying out millions of dollars of pipe.
Yeah.
Whereas Evolve I love the name of the podcast, by the way. It bridges that gap. It makes it to where those people can give the exact input that's needed when it's needed, not like, oh, I'm out here on site and this thing's hanging above me and I don't know how to attach it. And, no, it's
Right.
3 months before that. They get in there, they get it how they want it. Doorbell. But they get it exactly how they want it, before it ever gets delivered. I think that's a big key also to when you go get those technologies. Something that Jonathan also taught me is there's like a dynamic champion, and then there's like a dynamic champion, somebody that just wants to do all this crazy inventive stuff. They want to apply stuff creatively. But then there's like a static champion or like a ground, basically, to keep that guy realistic, like keep them inside the constraints of time and money, So I'd say the big thing is if you're a BIM manager and you go out and you find something cool at MEP Force, don't come back and just throw it at one of those guys. Pick a team, like pick a guy that is a more realistic guy that watches hours, that knows ROI, and then pick that crazy mad scientist guy and team them up and challenge them. That's the best way. You're going to get something realistic that's probably going to save you time and make you money.
Yeah. I love that approach of having that balance there between the dynamic and static. Realistically, how does that relationship, how do you set it up for success and them not just kill each other by approaching it from drastically different points of views?
That's a good question. Because Jonathan was experimenting with us, and and that did happen on occasion, and basically the key is you like have a third party. If you as the BIM manager bringing the technology back, just keep touch on it. Don't overwhelm people. Don't like stand over their shoulder and try to guide them. Let them be free. Let them do what they're doing. But at least like chime in maybe every other week or something. Just try to keep a pulse on how it's going. And also definitely set up for metrics. Metrics are a big deal. You're going to want to set up like, okay, after a month, I expect a document saying how many hours you saved doing a certain task or something like that. Definitely set up metrics for yourself. Don't just let them go and destroy a project.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's never good. And that's another key too. If you can, don't do a like multi-million or billion-dollar job, that once you implement, you're stuck with it for 5 years. Do something small, bite off little chunks, and just attack it bit by bit and slowly involve more people.
Yeah. I'm all for that kind of snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what would happen is it's like, we'd finally get it right. We might be bickering a bit, but it's just two of us, and we figure it out. And then poof, now all the foremen are like, we're making bank. We're crushing it on time. And then everybody wants to hear like, how, why you started 2 years ago. How the heck are you the most profitable foreman or BIM coordinator,
Yeah.
Well, that starts that snowball. And that's
Nice.
always fun.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What are some of your kind of go-to success metrics?
Success metrics. I always go to the end user. I always fall back after your discovery. You've got your problem and who that problem pertains to, and then you're kind of prioritizing what you tackle by that. What's the biggest thing costing us money by not having, and then you go for that. If it's that your designers don't know how to spool and they need something like Evolve to help them through that, then we're going to go after that first. If we have bad communication, maybe you're going to go something like we have.
Yeah.
But as far as metrics, I always go back to the end user. So that process of discovery, implementation, I always go back in that discovery and just say, hey, is it better? Tell me point blank. It's just me and you, Is it better? If it's not, why? What do you think? And a lot of times it's funny. Well, what I would run into is that would be their chance to vent. The field would vent to me and, I want to use this, but I can't because of this and that. And it's like, you quickly realize, oh, you just need a little more training. Or we need this little add-in, or I just need to tweak the database. It's usually some little thing. And then you can re-implement. And again, after you re-implement, come back a week later and ask the end user. That's usually the best metric at the start. And that said, you don't want like a clock puncher to be this person, this champion. You want somebody passionate about it. If it's a clock puncher, it's just going to be like, yeah, it's great, or no, it doesn't work. You want somebody passionate that's out there documenting it, that wants to truly make this thing work. They're going to give you an honest feedback. If it doesn't work, they're going to say, yeah, this ruined my life.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been told that before with a smashed iPad. They gave me a smashed iPad and said, this ruined my life. Take it back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My kids have actually just crashed my office now too.
Nice. The paper's still up there though.
That's right. Sorry. I'll be right back.
You're good.
Sorry about that. They very stealthily snuck around the corner. They were just hiding behind me.
Oh, you wouldn't believe maybe you do. You're digital enough. You've probably seen some hilarious background stuff, but oh man, I've seen some people where they're like dead serious meetings, got like suit tops on and stuff, and there's just like a trail of little kids like sneaking around in the background, like, don't let dad see us. You're on camera.
Yeah, it happens. I think this is the first time that they've snuck into an actual podcast recording. So you win the prize, Travis.
Oh, it's funny, right? Yes. It was so interesting. They had to hear it.
That's right. All right. Well, cool. Let's dive back in. So, Travis, what are some ruts and pitfalls that people need to be on the lookout for when they're trying to implement Contact?
Naysayers, for lack of better term. I actually just had lunch with my TBA buddies from my engineering job a couple years ago, and that was our favorite term, was naysayers. No matter what you bring to the table, it's like, oh, I'm not doing that. I've done it this way for years. Pencil drawings are way faster. I've been told that. I had a boss tell me once that he could do pencil drawings way faster than I could work in Revit, and I'm just like, do you want me to take your job? Like, do you want to challenge that?
Right.
Because that's a pretty loud accusation,
Let's do it right now.
That's right. Oh no, he's probably happily retired at this point. But that was another thing John taught me, was the word he would use for it was a poison pill. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing I saw was those people that just want to derail everything. And a funny story I always tell about a situation where that exact thing happened with me. So I was a big believer in communication, like when I was doing coordination. That's why I'm at Rivisto. That's why I used Rivisto in the real world. I used it for years before I worked here. And I was training. I got my whole field to buy in, and I was training everybody, and slowly, like, it was like 10 people one week, then 20 people. And then suddenly we had like a 50-person training, and that snowball was happening. Mm-hmm. And all these people that swore off technology, the naysayers, were finally interested. And one of the head naysayers, for lack of a better term, came in and was just like, oh man, look at that pipe. You messed that weld up on that pipe. You expect me to listen to you about this technology, but you can't get that right? And I'm like, yes, I've welded 0 times in my life. I see the welders downstairs, but I don't know how to use it. I don't know the ins and outs, but I could teach you how to use this little stylus here and circle that pipe and say, hey, Travis, put this weld here instead, and I could teach you that in about 20 seconds, on your iPad. But it was a really loud point from him, because he said it in front of all these foremen, trying to impress them and kind of talk down on the tech guy. Mm-hmm. When in reality, it was just like, hey, everybody, we're going to have a live example today. Here, take this iPad, circle that problem and tell me how to fix it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. I took one of those poison pills and one of those negative things and just live on the spot made an example out of it and was like, hey, this is why communication's a problem here.
Right.
So I that's a really important part too with those dynamic champions. Usually they're the ones that are going to be able to immediately just shut that down and put a real world condition to it.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's so important to be able to spin it around too, and to show it
right.
exactly what you did. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because again, going back to that mindset, a lot of coordinators like myself coming up, a lot of people are really shy. Somebody could say that and it's just like, oh, well, now I'm just like, I'll start muttering, maybe I'm mumbling and I
Yeah.
get nervous. Like that was me until that day. That day was like me coming out, like just figuring out, okay, I have some power now.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
technology superpowers.
there you go. Not to go all psycho analyzing on that guy, but he's probably, trying to hide behind so much insecurity that he doesn't want. He's scared of
Yeah,
the technology is going to look stupid, and so it's way
that's a good
easier to
point.
just trash it than to have to
Yeah.
show that he's not good at it.
Yeah, right. And it's like the same as the old boss that I had that said he could draw by hand faster. He had to know that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, he had to know that, but I think he was just trying to like it's a lot of people putting people in their place, That's what's
Right.
happening in the industry. Like, oh, you're college educated and you know how to use this software and you think you're going to be able to do what I did for 30 years? No, but I think if you spend 2 years teaching me, like the future is very bright.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
not drawing by pencil. Those days are gone.
yeah, for sure. I think you bring up an interesting dynamic there too. Of have you heard of the reverse mentoring concept,
No, I
where
haven't.
you bring in a younger person that's more up on technology, and then you pair them with somebody who's seasoned and has that real world experience with it. And so
Yeah.
the younger person teaches the technology, but the older person then teaches the real world aspect of it. When it's done
Huh.
well, it seems to be a really cool way to, no pun intended here, bridge the gap and get the best of both worlds to your,
Yeah.
because both sides need something that the other side has, and both sides
Right.
kind of have a chip on their shoulder about the other side.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I think that kind of was naturally done to me in my
Yeah.
role because it was just kind of like, here's this technology, here's the BIM requirements. It's an LOD 500 model. Good. It's got to be within 2 inches of where it's installed. Good luck.
Yeah.
And that was where I was just like, oh my God, what do I do? They're yelling at me for these like for street elbows. What the heck is a street elbow?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to learn that
Learn
lingo
quick.
and everything. Yeah. And that's where it really helps to be in the same kind of communication bubble because now like I became friends. You're talking about bridging that gap and really like connecting with those people. I became friends with those people.
Yeah.
I think that reverse mentoring was pulled on me. Someone pulled a fast one on me and
Nice.
made me a
Now you know what
reverse
they
mentor.
did.
Yeah. I'm not angry about it at all. I'm actually really happy about it, but that's interesting because like I said, then I became able to like talk to those people. We humanized each other. I,
Yeah.
I want to like encourage people like don't be the guy that's afraid to speak up. Everybody's got the same problems. Everybody, you
Yeah.
know. Some people just are loud about it. Some people just enjoy that they have a job and they clock in.
Right.
They don't want to make ruffles or ruffle feathers.
Right.
I definitely like, as far as ruffling feathers, I just like hit the bird out of the air with a baseball bat. It's
Somebody's got to be
brutal.
that person.
Yeah, right. Yep. Then you just got to rope me back in.
Nice.
So,
Anything that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure we cover?
as far as implementing and being consistent with your implementation, set up job templates. Like always set up internal templates. If nothing else, just have a document that says, this is what we did on this job, this is what we did on that job, and then know your teams and know, going back to the dynamic and static thing, know which people you could pair up and what kind of standard you have to push on that job.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to use, Dado, I'm going to go back to Dado because I love it, but Dado is like one that maybe there's not a need for it on a certain job. So maybe if you got a Dado champion, use him somewhere else to push it on another job and keep your Rivisto and Evolve guys, you know, on another job. And then use that, implement that into your cross training whenever you want somebody to learn one or the other, then put them on a project team together.
Right. Yeah, that cross training
the whole
is
key.
huge.
Yeah. A lot of people try to just wing it, like, oh, these people will work great together. You know, some people just can't work together. You have to know that anyway up front.
Right.
Hopefully. I don't know. I don't know that everybody cares. I know certain companies do. You know, the teams you can pair up, you know. So just go
Right.
one step
You
further
should.
and not just know their personality, but know their skill set. Know their
Right.
I mean, even one further, know what they're willing to do. If you got a foreman like there's a guy at Binsky, Dave Wilson. He's a character. He's embraced technology to its fullest, and he is loud about it. You know, so
Yeah.
he's the guy that I run to him with, like, hey, check this cool thing out. He geeks out. He tells his team, gets them geeking out. That's what you got to do. You got to put people kind of in their place where they feel comfortable, and then push a little bit. And that's another important point I wanted to bring up about implementation, is that cross training. Like, once you have a connection between a field guy and a BIM guy, you know, switch it up. Either, like, maybe not, like, maybe keep the foreman and the BIM guy together, but then maybe like put a new detailer on it, or a couple new apprentices. You know the abilities of your teams, know where they've been, what they've done, and know their abilities, and then play on that. You know, just go
Yeah.
after whatever. If, like you said, if it's a foreman that has now embraced technology and they're good at it, maybe put a BIM guy that is new, that guy can now teach the BIM guy some new stuff. Whereas the BIM guy is going to be all right on technology, and the foreman's going to help him now, you know? So now it's not a crutch. It's actually like a super foreman.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
for like a better term.
Yeah.
I like super foreman.
I like it. I'm sure they'd like it too.
Oh yeah.
So that brings up another kind of interesting little rabbit trail of the culture and the soft skill aspect of construction. That I think those skills traditionally aren't, you don't think of them in the construction space of,
not at all,
you know, taking somebody else's feelings into account, or, you know, how do you have those open dialogues and those conversations? Do you see that changing some as technology is coming more readily available in construction?
I I don't necessarily see it changing. And like, my first day out of college, I actually started on a field crew out on site, and some guy had me grab him a shovel, and I got the wrong shovel, and this dude seriously threw the shovel at me, like full blown, two hands, threw a shovel at me.
Wow.
Which was brutal. But
Did he miss, or did he hit you?
Oh, he hit me. He took my legs out. Like, I went down to a knee. Yeah. And he was just like, bring the right shovel next time. It's ruthless. But what I was gonna say about that is I think what's happening is people that are coming up through the same way I did are able to, like, gauge that better, and they're able to maybe not gauge it better, but like react to it better, or take it differently. Whereas before I was just like, I want to quit my job, you
Yeah.
know, I'm out of here.
Right.
Whereas I think people are getting a lot more able to embrace that. And then what that does is those people that throw the shovel kind of get loudly put on blast. Like, nobody wants to work with that guy, you know, he threw a
Right.
shovel at someone.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, yeah, man, you hit that tech guy with a shovel. Good job.
Yeah.
I don't see that anymore. It's
Yeah.
probably still out there, but again, I think making it known. I think the contract culture, and I wrote an article about contract culture. I think it's driven BIM far enough that the foremen understand, like, they have people on their same team, you know, that are dealing with these constraints, dealing with crazy deadlines and everything else. So it also lets them be a little more empathetic
Yeah.
without being made fun of for caring about someone's feelings.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Well, not all of the naysayers are going to be as maybe, you know, as loud and boisterous in your face about it. How do you
yeah,
suss out those quiet kind of lurkers in the back that are quietly
I
sabotaging it?
I would sick the dynamic guys on those guys, because
Uh-huh.
that's what happened to me. Was like there were still these problems happening,
Yeah.
but it wasn't getting communicated to me. Well, me being the like, again, I'm going to go back to that tenacious word,
Yeah.
the tenacious person that I am, and like how I solve problems. I obsessed over what the problem was, and
Uh-huh.
I would find what the problem was, and it was that this guy didn't tell me what that guy told him to tell me. So basically, because of that, I need the guy that's supposed to tell me something to tell me. Don't tell
Mhm.
the PM to tell me. You tell me.
Right.
And I just had to. You have to open that. You have to open that door, because that's a lot of what I saw was the PMs would really keep the field and BIM divided. That's not how it should be. The PMs should definitely embrace that connection, get the field and BIM tied together at the beginning, way before anything's ever built. The
Mhm.
foreman should be in the shop looking at drawings anyway. Get them in there looking at the model, get them chatting, just get them humanized. Let them know that, hey, the BIM guy working on this is working his butt off. He's just new, he needs some help.
Mhm.
Like going back to what you said about technology and how everybody needs each other, I live by the motto that I could teach anybody. I could teach my grandma right now how to use pretty much any technology. I'm going to go down there a little bit later and say, hey, here's data. Why don't you find a submittal for something, just to test my challenge. But
Yeah.
um,
Get to
I
report
believe I
back.
could teach, right? Yeah. I believe I could teach anybody any technology ever. And I myself am a little bit better than like my dad or my grandma, at learning the technology. That's all that I have up on them. I can quickly vet it out, learn it, and then I could teach anybody quickly. You can't do that with welding. I go
Right.
down to a weld shop, you could spend 2 years with me and I'm gonna mess everything up. I'm gonna be welding stuff to the walls and everything, electrocute myself, burn my finger off, who knows what.
Yeah. I'd be right there with you. You wouldn't
So
want anything that I welded.
right. Look at this blob that I made.
Like, what is that?
Right. So I think it's really important. Like that's what I've learned, and that's what I strive by. It's important for us tech guys to have the patience with them. Like they definitely have more of what we need than we have of what they need. So be
Right.
patient with them. Go in there. Don't just say, hey, you got to use this tool. You got to use Dado because that's what we have. No, go in there and be like, hey, I noticed you're spending hours looking for submittals. It looks frustrating. Check this new tool out. What do you think about this? Should we look into it? Like, would you be interested? And then keep them people involved, because that's what's going to really help that snowball start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us more about Rivisto.
So Rivisto is a integrated collaboration platform that allows everybody to kind of communicate in one place. So as you can see with what I'm saying here today, it's natural that I found my place somewhere like this.
Yeah.
I used Rivisto for 3 years, and that was where I really found how little I knew about construction. And I was actually using it to answer to a GC. So we were doing coordination, and he wanted me to resolve these clashes. And like a specific moment I remember was something about duct mate, which is like it brings duct together, and it's like this big thick steel kind of beam in between, but they can just like put these things in and then the ducts are combined together. And the GC was like, hey, this is hitting every pipe in the hallway. Can you like smash that with a hammer or something? Is it like flexible? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. It wasn't. It wasn't. We definitely had to reroute that duct like on the fly in the field, and then I had to redraw it after the field fixed it.
Yeah.
But that was like a wake up call for me. I'm sitting here, I'm doing all the coordination, I'm answering the GC and everything in this platform, but my foreman's not in the platform.
Yeah.
That like with Rivisto, what could happen and what did end up happening was basically, hey, this duct mate's hitting all the pipe on this in this corridor. Can it be smashed down? he assigns it to me, and then I could just assign it to the foreman and be like, what do you think? I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I'm gonna say yes, but what do you think? And then that's when the foreman's like, what are you doing?
Right.
you
Don't
know,
smash.
thank yeah, thank you for getting a hold of me, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's again, naturally, that's why I'm at Rivisto, is because I really have that passion for bringing those people together, letting people understand where everybody's coming from, and what the constraints of, I mean, the BIM world is intense sometimes. There's some contracts that are just, I mean, a lot of contracts I've seen are like impossible to execute. If you do your very best, you get like an A minus.
Right. Right.
I've seen very little A+ jobs. If there's anybody out there with them, please message me. I'd love to see them. But I
Yeah, the
think
deck
that's an
is stacked
interesting,
against it.
yeah. And what's interesting about it is I've actually been in the situation going from engineering to contracting to now software. I was actually in a situation where I engineered a building. I thought it was great. I patted myself on the back. I felt great about it. Well, 3 years later, when I went to work for the contractor, this guy was like really mad about a drawing that he had on this building. And as soon as he said the building, I was like, oh no, that's my drawing. I know that's my drawing. I know I did a building here in Erie when I was an engineer. And so I had him bring the drawing up, and sure enough, my initials were on the, on the drawing.
Like, who's this
you
guy?
know yeah, right. So but to me, again, that was another wake up call that, like, man, I worked on that for like a year at an engineering firm, like, felt great about myself, but couldn't have been, it was worthless to the field to install. So I
Yeah.
think going back to that discovery and implementation thing, it's, again, it's really important to know who's using what for what. Because, like, that drawing was great for us at the engineering firm, but as far as the contracting side and building it, it was worthless. So
Right.
that can really be tied to technology. Like, a fabrication workflow in Rivisto is not going to do anything for an engineering person. Maybe it'll open their eyes to how their 3D data is being used by contractors, but
Hmm.
as far as it's concerned, it's just costing the engineer money.
Right.
So I apply different software, totally different in different companies even.
Right. Well, I think that communication aspect is huge too, to
Yep.
see it from the other person's point of view. Not that you have to, it changes how what you are doing from your perspective, but it's good to have that other side of the equation.
Yeah, and that's a big challenge that I always challenge people, is just be open-minded. Just open your door to hear what these people have to say. If somebody's messing up and they're not answering your calls and stuff, they're probably stressed out. They're probably trying to hit their deadlines, and they're like that's what was happening to me. I'm trying to hit my deadlines for the GC, but we made money installing pipe. So you can imagine my foreman's like, "Why are you saying this can be smashed with a hammer?
Yeah.
It's just costing us money." And I'm like, "Well, I wasn't getting yelled at by the GC anymore by saying that." you know?
Yeah.
So I think always being open-minded to those problems people face is really the ultimate way to keep this mindset moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how do people get a hold of you and find out more about Revista?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I could share my email and stuff also here. But the best way is LinkedIn. We're releasing Rivisto 5 now, which is, to put it lightly, I guess, a game changer in my opinion.
Nice.
Um, you're going to be able to, like, search directly in the model. So I've been really working on, and I'm a sick person. I work like on the stuff like 4 a.m. on Saturdays and stuff. I just get lost. But I've been dreaming up ways that, like, we can have foremen ordering materials directly from the model just in time, because that was the biggest thing that I would run into. We'd want to order materials a year ahead of time, and then we go through coordination, and then it's like, oh crap, the pump sizes were changed. We got to throw all this away. If
Yeah.
you do that just in time delivery, which again, it goes big into communication. I didn't care about any of that on the BIM side. I do now, but I didn't when I was doing it. Like, the field can get their stuff whenever they want.
Right.
But in reality, what was happening was I was printing drawings, and they were like, oh, this is ready to go. They'd order it, go fabricate it, and then we would change it all. And that's all bad,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I think that's also a very interesting factor there. to keep in mind.
Interesting. Well, my last question is, what does innovation mean to you?
Innovation. I would say the first thing that came to my gut right there was just pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Instead of being a stagnant naysayer, go out there, and if you got a problem, go figure it out. Go figure out how to fix it. Be the hero. You know. Now, again, I'm going to go back to Jonathan Marsh on this one. You got to keep people roped in. Like, I wanted to be the hero. Letting somebody just 15, 20 hours a day bury themselves into doing something is not healthy. It's
Right.
not it's not effective either. So definitely do it in a controlled environment, but definitely pushing the envelope, looking at, hey, I'm tired of these flanges not lining up. Let's try a new scanner. Let's try, maybe we need a new software to run the points. The main thing we always came back to is we needed help with spooling. I mean, sometimes you spool 10,000 things. So again, Evolve wasn't around when we were spooling. Evolve's what, 4 or 5 years old now?
3 or 4. Yeah.
3 or 4, still a little baby. But if I had it, I've used it enough that, like, hangers, making spool drawings, having to make changes on spool drawings.
Yeah.
That we had a person for that. We paid somebody all year to like move tags on spool drawings and lay out hangers.
Right.
Whereas Evolve just does it. It gets, I mean, it's not perfect, but you're 95% there, and then you can spit your sheets out. So just stuff like that. Look at the problem. You probably have the tools there. If you have Revit, I'm telling you, you probably have the tools there. Revit is way more than what people think it is. It can do so much. It's just people get taught a certain way. I'm with Rivisto, I see it all the time, that Rivisto is like a GC tool. Rivisto is just for controlling subcontractors and their clashes. It's not. I used it for something totally different. I use it as a day-to-day planner. I'm kidding. You can though.
Yeah. Well, it's the old adage, you only use like 10% of any given software.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. And most of them are that way. So when you're doing that discovery, also always make sure to dip back into the jar of software you already have, and see if you can find something to use there.
Yeah.
And that said, if you can't, you should probably go to MEP Force.
Hopefully in person in 2021. That's our
right.
That's our goal.
Yep. Yeah. I
Then we
gotta
could
say,
see
MEP
everybody. It
Force
was
is one of my favorites. I missed, we went to San Antonio 2 years ago for it. I missed it so much. I went to San Antonio 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Because of MEP Force and showing me that city and just the great times I had. I met all new people, and we essentially established a scooter gang. You remember the electric scooters?
Yeah.
And we just had a gang of construction professionals on scooters riding around.
I got to see pictures and videos of it because MEP Force, I never leave the building
right. Yeah.
for a week. And I'm like, oh, the sun is too bright. But I saw people enjoying them.
Yep.
The party in the park is the only time they let me out of the building.
Yep. But no, I remember it's funny. You're talking about like that dynamic and static relationship. Well, we got out of, I think we did a tequila, like a margarita mixing competition with Wendy from eSub. Yeah. And we got out and everybody's like eyeballing those scooters, but nobody would go up and hop on one. Well, I'm the dynamic guy. I hopped on the scooter and just scanned them so everybody could start rolling out on them. And
nice.
Sometimes you just need that push, you need that. Yeah, you need somebody to just be like, let's do it. If somebody gets hit by a car, I'm sorry. There should have been a static champion to hold me back.
Nice.
But
everybody needs their yin and yang.
Yep, exactly.
Well, awesome. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Travis. It's always fun to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. I definitely appreciate being on here. Like I said, I love everything about the podcast. I love what you guys are doing, and I love that Evolve works really well with Rivisto. It's going to be a fun next few years.
Definitely. Well,
for sure.